Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the quadratic formula. So here's the quadratic formula. You can use this to solve any quadratic equation, okay? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that comes when an equation is written in standard form like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so we actually proved that in our last lesson, but let's go through it again. Okay, it's worthwhile to do. So this is my quadratic equation. Okay, I want to complete the square. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by a. So I get x squared plus b over ax plus c over a equals 0. Okay. And now I want to get rid of this because I want to make sure this is a perfect square. So I subtract it to the other side. And then I complete the square by taking this number here, b over a, taking half of that, and squaring it. So that would be b over 2a squared, which would be b squared over 4a squared. That's going to go here. And I'm going to add it to this side as well, keep my equation in balance. Okay, so now I get x squared plus b over ax plus b squared over 4a squared equals b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Okay, we're going to do two things on this step. We're going to factor this. So this is going to be x plus b over 2a, x plus b over 2a. And over here we're going to get a common denominator, so we're going to multiply this by 4a over 4a. Okay, so I'm going to get b squared minus 4ac. Whoops. Yeah, b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. And then I'm going to rewrite this like this. Don't do anything over here on this step. And now in order to do this, I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides of this thing. And I'm going to get x plus b over 2a is going to equal the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over the square root of 4a squared is just 2a. And it's plus or minus. Okay, now I'm going to subtract this from both sides. And I get x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's my quadratic formula. Okay. So, since an equation must be in standard form in order to use the quadratic equation, change this equation to standard form and then solve it using the quadratic formula. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get this all on one side. So this is going to be 3x squared. I'm going to add 5x to both sides, and I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And so I get this. It's not a bad idea to label a as 3, b is 5, c is negative 6. You don't have to do that step, but it's not a bad idea to do it. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Okay, so x is going to equal negative 5 plus or minus the square root. So this and this cancel each other out. Let's see, I've got 12 times 6 is 72. That's 97. I don't need all this. All over 6. Okay, I can't square root 97, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Here's my answer. Okay, you would never be able to get that by factoring, and you wouldn't be able to get it by graphing. Okay, so the quadratic formula tells you there's the exact answer right there. If you need a decimal approximation, you can actually work these out. Remember, you're going to take -5 and add the square root of 97 and divide by 6. And then you're going to take the -5 and subtract the square root of 97 and divide by 6. Okay, the discriminant of a quadratic equation is the b squared minus 4ac part of the equation. It's the stuff underneath the square root. The discriminant is an important part of the equation because it will tell you how many solutions and what kind of solutions they are. Okay, so if the discriminant is positive, the equation has 2 real solutions. If the discriminant is 0, it has 1 real solution. And if the discriminant is negative, it has 2 imaginary solutions. Now, we're not going to talk about imaginary numbers today, but that's coming up. So that'll be the next lesson, I think. So we're just going to worry about when they're positive or 0 right now. Okay, so find the number of solutions for each equation. Okay, so I want b squared minus 4ac on all these. Okay, so b would be -4, and remember I square it. This number is always going to be positive. The b squared is always going to be positive. -4, a is going to be 1 because that's the coefficient of the x squared, and c is going to be 5. Okay, so it's going to be 16 minus 20, which is -4. That tells me it has 2 imaginary solutions. Essentially what happens is if I were to graph this thing, what that means is the graph does something like this. Okay, it doesn't cross the x-axis. Either that or it does something like this, one of those two. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Let's kind of make some room here. Okay, so let's see. This time b squared is going to be -4 squared again, -4 times a times c. Okay, so this time I'm going to get 16 minus 16, which is 0, which implies 1 real solution. Now, really it has 2 solutions, but they're the same answer, so it's 1 real solution. Okay. And let's see, the last one. This one's going to be -4 squared again, -4ac. So this is going to be 16 minus 12, which is 4, which tells me it has 2 real solutions. Okay, so in this case, in the third case, you have something that looks like this, or it's upside down, it crosses the x-axis twice, and in the middle case, you had something that looked like this, where it came down and it touched and it went back up like that, or vice versa, it came up from the bottom, touched, and went back down. Okay, solve this quadratic equation using quadratic formula. I tell you what, why don't you pause the video, give this one a try, and then jump back on and see how your answer compared to mine. Okay, I think it's a great idea to write out the formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you could sing the song, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And my voice is not doing very well today. But there's your formula. Okay, so my a is 3, my b is negative 8, and my c is 12. Okay, so let's do this thing. So x is going to equal negative b. Well, b is already negative, so it's going to be positive now. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a would be 6. Okay, so x is going to equal 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus, oh, that's going to be 144 all over 6. So x is going to equal 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 80 over 6. So that tells me it's got imaginary solutions. And at this point today, we're done. So we would just say this implies it has no real solutions. We'll get to the imaginary solutions later. Okay. All right, now we had a couple of formulas that we learned before that you need to remember. So h equals negative 16t squared plus s. That is the formula for the height of an object at time t dropped from a height of s on the Earth. And then we also had the formula h equals negative 16t squared plus vt plus s. This was an object that was thrown on the Earth, where t is the time in seconds, and v is the velocity in feet per second, and s is the height that it's dropped or thrown from in feet, and h is the height off the ground. Okay, so remember that this is velocity, this is not speed. So it can be positive or negative. If it's a positive velocity, it's going up. If it's a negative velocity, it's coming down. Okay, so a baton twirler tosses a baton into the air. The twirler's hand is 5 feet above the ground. The twirler will catch the baton when it falls back to a height of 6 feet. How many seconds is the baton in the air? The baton twirler tosses the baton into the air. Its initial velocity is 30 feet per second. Okay, so since it's tossed, we're going to get this formula. H equals negative 16t squared plus vt plus s. Okay, so what do we know here? We know that the thing was tossed from a height of 5 feet. So s is going to be 5. We know that the velocity is 30 feet per second. So this is going to be 30t. Okay, minus 16t squared. And we want to catch it at the height of 6 feet. Okay. So here we go. We're going to move this over here. So this is in standard form. So negative 16t squared plus 30t minus 1 is 0. Okay, so then we're going to use our quadratic formula. So x is going to equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. Well, 30 squared is 900 minus 4 times a, which is negative 16, times c, which is negative 1, all over 2a would be negative 32. Okay, so we've got some negatives that cancel out here. So x is going to equal negative 30 plus or minus the square root. Let's see, that's going to be 900 minus 64. My brain's not up for it today. That's going to be 836 over negative 32. Now, I'm going to get a positive and a negative answer for this. And obviously the negative answer, since I can't go back in time, is going to be tossed. So, square root of 836 is approximately 28.91. Okay, I want the numerator to be negative. Okay, because then I got a negative in the denominator. It's going to cancel out. My answer is going to be positive. Okay, so now the thing is, both of these are going to be negative on the numerator. So 30 plus, or I'm sorry, negative 30 plus 28.91 is going to be negative 1.09 over negative 32. And that's going to be 0.034. And that's actually t. These should all be t's. Okay. Because this is time. Get in the habit of putting things in x. Okay. Now that's pretty quick. Now remember, here's what's happening in this picture if you think about it. Okay, this thing's going to travel in a parabola. It's upside down parabola. It's going to go like this. Here's 5. Okay, it's going to go like this. And it's going to be caught at 6. So it's going to end like right here. Okay, so it's going to cross 6 twice. This is the first time. This is when she throws it up. It goes from 5 feet to 6 feet. This is not the answer that I want. It's extraneous. I'm going to cross that out. Okay. Now, the other answer is going to be negative 30 minus 28.91. It's negative 58.91 divided by negative 32. That's going to be 1.84 seconds. That's the one I'm looking for. So this is when it's at 6 feet on the way up, 0.034 seconds. This is when she catches it on the way down at 1.84 seconds. Okay, so there we go. I'll have the lesson attached to that. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.